Hello, my name is Wes, and I'm here to show you just a quick unpacking of Legends of Novus. So you've kindly been willing to do a little play test for me, or a pre-review before the Kickstarter, which will be launching on February 19th. And we're going to go through just a full unpacking of what you'll get out of the box, and then on a separate video, we'll do a quick playthrough on solo mode, which you can adhere all the rules to multiplayer mode as well. So hopefully you enjoy what you see, and I'll explain a few of the things as we unpack the box. All right. All right, so we'll walk through everything you'll see when you open your box. So first off, there might be a couple of copies of this letter, and this is a letter directly to anybody that's willing to do the preview or review of Legends of Novus. And inside here you'll see a full list of what belongs in this box, and then some information about the game itself. And I'll probably send you some other stuff within an email because things have happened since the time I wrote this letter. But what I would ask is keep a letter for yourself, and if there's any other letters remaining, if you do end up mailing it off to somebody else, then just include those letters with it. All right, second thing you'll find in the box will be some Fundamental Games business cards, so you're welcome to take one or two if you like. It's just my business card with actually a brief overview of what Duel of the Dragons is and Legends of Novus. And those are the two games that I'm really kickstarting my company on, Fundamental Games. So hopefully you like those. Next off, we'll show you the game board. Now, my apologies, I intended to give you a true game board from the Game Crafter, but for some reason, the order of my game boards was not included and they've given me a credit. So instead what I did was I printed this out at Staples. It's actually a pretty beautiful map. It's much bigger than the game board would actually be, so I apologize if it's difficult to fit it on your game table. But you will get a full view of this wonderful art done by Boris Turano of the world of Novus. And it plays just like the game board, so the only difference is you don't have the thickness. It's just a poster board. But it will fold up, and don't worry if you dent or crease it. We're just using it for the intent of gameplay. So that will be the Legends of Novus game board. Next up, we will have the actual rules to Legends of Novus. And as I go through minor rules, tweaks, and changes, I do update it on the website and on my Fundamental Games website as well. But for now, this is the most recent as of December 18th. These rules are in here. So quite a few pages in the rule book, but a lot of it you'll catch on right away if you're used to playing any type of fantasy games or D&D. Some of this stuff will make sense right off the get-go. If you're not familiar with those, then definitely read it through front to back. And you'll see a lot of symbology, which will help with the gameplay, really to link icons and whatnot together. And if you watch the gameplay video, that'll help you with that. There is a page in here about playing the game alone, which is what I'm going to do the video on. And then there's a couple other pages that explain how to play the game with 2 teams of 2, or to play the game with 2 to 5 players co-op, so that you're not actually trying to compete against one another, you're just competing against the game. Those still have a little bit of playtesting to do, so if you do end up trying that method, bear in mind there could be some rules changes in the future, which again I would update in the rule book, but none of the actual components of the game would change as a result of that. So what you see in this component list should be how the game ends up. Then we have the location guide. So the location guide is critical for the gameplay itself because it'll tell you everything that's going to happen in the world of Novus. And as we play through the solo mode, you'll see how this works. So there's only one location guide in the game, and it can be passed around from player to player. Anybody can look at it at any time. Now, based on feedback from the game in the playtests, decided we would do this little quick sheet mini reference. So I'll include 5 of these in the game as well, potentially 1 for each player. And what it does is it outlines every single location on the game map, just a 1-line summary of what would happen there. So rather than going through the full description, if you're just curious, what's the basics if I go to a location, that's what the mini reference card is. It's a little cheat sheet for the full location guide. Because if you are playing a 3 or 4 or 5 player game, passing this around the table over and over can be a bit frustrating. So the card helps you with that. All right, then we get into one of the novel parts of the game, and that is the character sheet, or kind of a booklet as I've made it. So on the front you can see the icon of the class that'll be inside. On the back is a brief story of that character class. And inside is what you'll play with. So the outside doesn't matter for gameplay, that's just for kind of the background. But the inside is what matters, so each player would have one of these in front of them. It's 2 8.5 by 11 sheets, or 17 by 11. And it'll describe to you what your character class can do. It gives you a little chart for your experience, for your combat ability, and this chart here is for single mode, or if you're playing co-op mode for 2 to 5 players. And the rest you'll see explanations of as we go through the solo gameplay. So there's going to be 5 of these, one for each character class. And so you get a chance to see those. After that, we get into some of the cards and details of the game. So here we have the quest creature tiles. These are the major bosses of Novus. So there should be 8 of those, and they are a tile, cardboard. So nice and durable, and feel free to toss them around to each other. If they get beaten up, all the better. On the front will be the quest creature itself, whether it has flying, its experience, its combat ability, and its other abilities. And then on the back is where you would encounter that creature in Novus. And you'll see that referenced on the location guide and the little mini reference guide to the location as well. So just thought the more places I have that, the more obvious it is. And in the final game, the idea is to have a standee or a token represent that quest creature on the map itself. And then if it gets defeated, that gets removed because they can only be defeated once. So there you go there. The 8 quest creatures. Then we're on to some different types of cards. So there's 3 major types of actual decks in the game. The first one is the adventure deck, so that's got the spark symbol. There will be, I believe, 66 of those. It'll be written on your sheet there. And they have all kinds of different abilities that affect the game, from earning money to fighting encounters to completing quests or gaining experience or even curses. And all that's described in the rulebook, of course. So that will be the adventure deck. Next up we have the reward deck. So the reward deck is the deck that you will use to acquire equipment, whether it's weapons or armor or special magical items. And so they all get shuffled together in one big deck, and again, all players share all decks. You'll see symbols on them, which will be described in the playthrough video. There's treasure, and should be 72 of those cards. All right, reward deck. Then we go on to the encounter deck. So the encounter deck, again shared by all players, is the deck that is used if you roll or experience an encounter in the game. So they would all get shuffled together, and then if you have an encounter, you pick up the top one, and that's the creature that you face. Lots of different creatures. There's different colors on the bottom that represent whether they're animal or undead or humanoid, or the different types of cards out there. Some of them are duplicates, and that's intentional because they're the more common creatures of Novus, whereas the more unique ones may only appear in the deck once. The game has the potential to increase the number of creature cards depending on how well the funding of the Kickstarter goes, and would really be excited to add more if possible, but the base game would have these 32 creature cards, or encounter cards. Alright, then there'll be some other miscellaneous cards. So these are cards that are not part of a deck, they're just additional cards that affect the game. These here are called the class cards, and they're basically the advanced version of the classes that you are. So you'll see in solo mode later on, or in the playthrough video, But what'll happen is at some point in the game, you'll gain enough experience to be able to upgrade your class, provided that your icon matches one of the icons on the card. So for this druid, for example, could become a superior summoner. This would cover up their part of the character sheet, and they earn those abilities instead of their core abilities. So 10 of those. Then we would have some allies. So these ally cards can only be obtained in special ways, either by the druid or if there's a reward or event card that allows you to gain an ally. So they're not, you'll notice the backs have a crossed out adventure mark. They kind of got the backing mixed up when I produced those, but they're just set to the side unless there's something in the game that causes you to get one. And then the last type of card is the player turn summary and the player reference chart for gold pieces and experience combat modifiers. So as you play the game, if you're new to the game or you haven't played it in a long time, then the turn summary could quickly tell you what you can do each turn, the 3 different phases and what happens in those phases. And then the backside lets you know how much your gold is worth if you want to exchange it for XP, or what your modifier is depending on how much experience you have to get stronger in combat. So there are 6 of those in case somebody happens to lose one. 6 will be included in the core game. All right, and then lastly we have all the different bits and pieces. So here we will have the 6-sided adventure die. So on this adventure die there's 2 travel, 1 adventure, 1 reward, and 2 encounter. And so it's just a unique etched die that'll be included with the game, and every player shares this die, only used when they're traveling. Then there will be 5 dice. Your dice might differ in color, but there are 5 different colored dice, 1 for each type of class. And most hardcore gamers probably have a set of their own D10s that they could use as well. And so each player will require 1 action die throughout the game. In the prototype version, I've only ordered meeples, but in the final version of the game, we plan to have character standees. But for now, there's a meeple for each class. So fighter, druid, wizard, thief, and priest. Actually, you can see that I left the die marks on by mistake, so really rookie job there. But again, final design will change. There'll be some experience markers, so this will help mark your experience in the game, and that's done right on the character sheet, which you'll see. And then lastly, there are gold coin tokens. Now, these are some generic gold symbols that I pulled off the internet. The final coins will have a game unique background that's drawn digitally by Andrea Butera, my lead artist for the game. But anyway, there's 5, 10, and 25 denominations, and how many of each are listed on that sheet I showed you at the beginning. So there you have it, all the different components that you'll be getting in Legends of Novus preview and review set. Hopefully that helps you to understand what you're unpacking, and next up will be the video for the gameplay video, and that might help you understand, instead of just reading the rules, this video would be on the Kickstarter as well. All right, thanks for watching.